I did some Instagram
sleuthing,
digging around, yeah.
Okay.
And then read a couple articles on you.
Oh, ooh. I didn't know there were a couple articles to read about me.
Yeah, heck yeah. All right. Okay, hello miners, and welcome to the 14th episode of Mining in the Foothills, where I'm on the search for dialectic gold with doers from around the Midwest. I'm Wes from Wally Opus, and my guest today is Hannah Evelyn, lead singer, songwriter, and guitarist of one of Southern Indiana's top indie rock bands, the Hannah Evelyn Trio. Let's see. Hannah's first album, Exposed Floors, hit streaming platforms in October of 2019, followed by two different 5-song EPs released in October 2020 and October 2021. Something with October and your releases. Over the past 3 to 4 years, Hannah and her bandmates, consisting of drummer Benji Koelling and bassist Jared Majors-Manley, which is those are great names for band members.
Yes.
Have played shows across the tri-state, including Parksfest and venues like the Civic Theatre, Bokeh Lounge, and StageTwo, where I'm about to have a show next month. Hannah is a native originally of Newburgh.
Yeah.
Sweet. And currently lives in Evansville.
Yeah, that is all correct. You did your proper research.
The last part was kind of a guess, but where she helps the great musicians of Southern Indiana find their perfect guitars as a team member of More Guitars.
Yes.
Still accurate. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. Hannah, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always nice to see people who, really want to try to start conversation with all of the surprisingly dense amount of musical talent we have around here. So yeah, thank you. Yes,
you're welcome. And I was just telling somebody yesterday, I don't know what we were talking about exactly, but I'm like, I'm always surprised. I never cease to be surprised by the number of people in Evansville doing cool shit, whether it's music, or just I met a guy the other day who wrote a book, and then he said, then the next day I heard that it was on the Amazon bestsellers list.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
Like, holy shit. You're just around here, just hanging out,
I think people kind of forget that Evansville at the heart of it is a town of transplants. Mm-hmm. A bunch of people there. Of course, there are a lot of people who grew up in this area, but I know a ton of people who just by happenstance have ended up in this area. And usually, of course, I always try to find the creatives. But there's a great music and art department with 2 different colleges here.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And of course, I got to mingle with a bunch of those people because I got a studio art degree at USI.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of people who find themselves in Evansville and they think that there's not going to be that much here. But really in reality, we're between all these, bigger cities and people kind of find themselves here all the time. So I think people forget that a lot and think all of us just grew up here or something,
Oh yeah. No, you're exactly right. So let's go back. Let's go back in your history. And I read, then I don't know, but I'm not exactly sure. Is it true that maybe you picked up a guitar at your grandma's at the age of 13?
Yeah. So my grandmother passed away when I was 1 or 2,
okay.
Very, very young. But she was a musician. Actually, her brother and my aunt, her daughter, were all in a gospel trio in the 50s and 60s. And
sweet.
Yeah, they played, they would go onto a local radio station in Kentucky and play every single Sunday morning for their gospel trio and play in revivals all around the South. So I have a very steeped history of musicianship of men and women, especially on my dad's side, which is, she's the grandmother on my dad's side.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was lucky enough to have a guitar.
Did she play guitar?
Yeah. She played guitar
awesome.
and sang. And so I was able to have her guitar passed down to me there for a little while. It resides elsewhere for the time being, but with my uncle. But I'll get it back eventually.
Yeah, you got to. You got to. That's a piece of history right there.
Yeah, and just picked it up and didn't tell anybody that I was learning for the first 2 months that I started
in
playing.
the closet about it.
Yeah, I thought I was being really, really sneaky, but my dad recently told me, he was like, "Oh yeah, I heard you."
Just let you go though. Didn't say anything.
Yeah, he let me kind of, explore and figure stuff out on my own. But I thought I was being so slick and not telling anybody and keeping my little secret and my notes full of poetry and all this stuff. Am I allowed to curse?
Oh yeah, say whatever comes to mind.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. All this bullshit that I was keeping to myself of all these emo thoughts that you have at 12 years old, because life is really, really hard then.
At least that's what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard. I feel like we don't
There's a lot of transitions going on. That is true.
We don't give enough credit to 13-year-olds. Man, they've got it. They don't know what they're doing, and they've got a lot of responsibility on them. And be nice to a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you a shy kid, or were you pretty outgoing? Or were you already kind of performing in any type of way, like theater, school, anything like that?
Yeah, performing and being a creative, young person was always something that was encouraged in my family. And me and my sister were both musical, and we were in a children's choir, very young. We both grew up in church, so we were in church choirs. Things like that. So we had early exposure to musicality and performance.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it kind of was already around. Do you remember when you wrote, sat down and wrote your first song, or were you said maybe some poetry was already?
Oh yeah. I mean, horrible, just obscene poetry about how sad I was, but Mr. So-and-so made me do my homework today. I don't know what it was about, looking back on it now, but
somebody didn't text you back or message you back or something.
Yeah. But I remember writing my first instrument was actually a piano.
Okay, gotcha.
So I wrote probably my first song when I was 10 on piano before I had even picked up the guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Do you still play piano at all in any capacity?
Poorly.
Do you play on any of your records?
No, we have thank God a fantastic swath of musicians to choose from here in Evansville. We've had Joe Lugers on our past couple records who
I don't think I know Joe Lugers.
He's fantastic. He has worked. I don't know if you were in the area when D'Altos was still around. Yeah. Him and his wife were instrumental in a lot of the stuff that was happening at D'Altos at the time.
Okay.
And he's a teacher here, a music teacher here locally, as well as he's extremely talented, and we have him play, thank God, on the records, because he's just one take it, everything's perfect, and he's like, oh well, did that sound okay? And we're like, Joe, it's great.
So that's something I'm interested. I feel like it takes a certain maturity level or I don't know, some sort of respect for the music to bring in other people to play on your record.
Yeah.
And to not try to. I mean, some people can do it all, and it's fucking great. But other people, I am a huge proponent now. In my current days of if somebody else can play it better on the record, especially what if you bring them in and then you can learn the part, whoever it is, for a live show, or we could kind of break it down simpler or something.
Yeah, when it's set in stone though, bring the the person who's better at it.
Yeah, have you always been like that with your records? Have you always been collaborative and
always? I think it's funny now. I was just talking about this earlier today. I think it's funny that the current project I'm in has my name on it.
Yeah.
Because I have never wanted to be a solo act.
Really?
I hate it. I feel so naked. Just me and a guitar. It's too vulnerable for me most of the time. I've always wanted to be in a band.
Have you performed much like that?
I did. I mean, I did that a lot. I feel like everybody has that, especially songwriters, you have that exposure to just sitting in front of people for 3 hours with you and a guitar and praying to God somebody is listening.
I know. I respect
the hell out of people who, make a career out of doing that because it can be soul sucking.
Mm-hmm.
But I always wanted it to be collaborative. The idea of bringing in people who not only change your stuff, but make it better.
Yeah.
And be able to bring in the right people who you trust to tell you when you're wrong.
To tell you nice and sweetly and lovingly that
right in your ear, hey, Hannah, you really fucked up right there. Like,
yeah, let's do that again.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Figure something out. So, well, that takes me to how did you meet Benji and Jared, and at what point did they make their way into your trio now?
Kind of a weird story, actually. I had gone down to Austin, Texas solo, the thing that I hate,
yeah,
to play some South by Southwest showcases during that time period.
When was this, you think?
2019 is when I went down solo. Yes.
Before your record came out? Or?
It was right after.
Okay, gotcha.
And actually at the time I've been in bands since I was 16, 17 years old. And I think I had just turned 21 in 2019. Okay. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep making music because I had gone down there by myself and, that soul-sucking solo stuff. So I decided next year I wanted to take a band down with me, but I didn't have a band. So I had asked Jared, he had come into the store and we had previously known each other in passing, but I knew him as a guitar player.
Okay.
And I said, hey, if you know anybody who's willing to play bass and come down with me to Texas for a week, let me know. And he's like, me.
Perfect.
He's like, I would love that.
Yeah.
And then Benji was referred to me by a mutual friend who was also a drummer who couldn't make it.
Okay, gotcha.
And we practiced, and we were basically the only people we saw for 3 months there for a while, just getting ready to go down to South by Southwest. And COVID.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we spent all this time. We had written new music, and COVID hit. So obviously that put a damper on things, but it meant that we holed up, and they became my family at that point because we only got together. That was the only thing we could do besides go home.
Yeah.
But we were in our own separate COVID bubble.
Yeah.
And we wrote cicada songs, and that's what we did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like that, I was saying this before in a different episode, but I feel like a lot of people have their COVID record, and a lot of artists have been, I guess, releasing that which was made when they were hunkered down over all that time. So that you had that exact experience as well.
Yeah.
And you were in Vail with pretty much a solidified trio.
We didn't, it was supposed to be kind of a temporary thing. I didn't know if these would be the people that I would continue to take into a full band. But after that experience of being together and writing together and figuring out how well we gelled, that was it, and I feel like, artists are going to continue to make COVID, I hate to say inspired, but, COVID necessitated.
Yeah, I was going to say, the impact of COVID that COVID has had is going to keep influencing everybody's art, or a lot of people's art.
For sure. Especially, us creatives, and we just desire connection. And for a very not insignificant amount of time, we were denied it.
Yeah.
So for artists to really process that, I think that takes a while, and figuring out what connection and communication really means to each other.
Yeah.
Because we can all sit and make music, in our bedrooms and keep it to ourselves. Why do we want to go and share it with other people? What's the desire? And so I think when you're denied it and you don't have the choice to share it, you finally have to realize why you want to do it.
So like in your case, when you were hunkered down during COVID writing these songs, did you think that you would then be able to go out and perform them, or were you like, well, no matter what, whatever. I'm like, we're gonna make a record and like release it on Spotify. Or were you concerned that maybe live shows? Because I know a lot of artists.
Yeah.
Were like, well, this might be the end of that.
Yeah, I there was that huge conversation about, is this the end of live music for the foreseeable future?
Yeah.
And I think
everybody was shitting their pants.
Oh my gosh.
All the venue owners and a lot of sadly, a lot of venues went under. Yeah. Which sucks.
Yeah, I just heard the news about like Exit In.
Me
and
too.
That's so sad.
Yeah. I'm worried. Well, which leads to a whole nother conversation of like large conglomerates buying up smaller venues, because I know that as somebody who books shows, it's hard to get gigs at venues owned by Live Nation.
Yeah.
For me at least, because I don't fucking know anybody at Live Nation.
Exactly.
Yet. So like, if I send an email to info@Live Nation, nobody looks at it.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm sure it's easy for the people who work with bands who work with Live Nation to get gigs at Live Nation-esque events, but venues. But I saw somebody said like there's a possibility that Live Nation might buy Exit In, which would keep it alive, which is great. But it's also like, I don't know how that benefits much.
I think, we've experienced this democratization of releasing music. Mm-hmm. Anyone can release music now.
Yeah.
You can put it on every single platform and somebody across the world can hear your music.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case beforehand.
Right.
And we're still facing barriers for independence on booking, on, making those connections with people in the outer industry. I don't know the answer to that, of course, because I'm the art maker and not the problem solver of, that. But I think we're starting to feel a push from it, of now all of these artists who have gained a following by themselves, by releasing their own music. Mm-hmm. And the booking side of things is a whole other animal.
Well, that's what, like, something I've thought a lot about recently being a couple months, is like looking elsewhere for venues, as in not like buildings or facilities that are not necessarily designated as music venues, but like figuring out, like, for example, I wanted to throw a show and feature some bands that I know. So I couldn't get a gig. I couldn't get a place in Nashville to do it, because I was really wanting to go there because a couple people I know in Nashville said they would come, which would be great for the bands that are there.
For sure.
But I couldn't get everybody was booked up, and I get it. But then I'm like, well, I'll just rent a venue in Evansville. And from doing that, StageTwo, then I'm like, oh, maybe they should do this more in other cities and like see what happens, or do this more around town. Because I do think that there is a lot of people who want to play these shows.
Yeah.
Who, and I just don't even know how else to build a scene or how to build up the scene. Then like, we have to have more shows, more stuff going on locally, and then start branching that out, but also inviting people in and like getting the flow going.
For sure. I think the independent scene can only benefit from more people doing independently made and like constructed shows, and also all ages shows.
Yes.
It's really, really difficult and also I know a lot of people nowadays that are sober, especially coming out of COVID, that don't want to be in a bar environment constantly. And it's limiting. It is limiting to bands to only be able to play like alcohol-based environments.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain energy that kind of comes with that. It's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it, you can't do everything at a bar.
Well, I thought the same thing about, there's just looking ahead to next year, I'm like, it's always the same thing for our, like, being in the local scene.
Yeah.
The selection is so small first of all, I should say, thank God we even have venues and bars who allow local people to play.
Oh, for sure.
It's a huge blessing. But like, to build an actual scene, the kids can't come to even young college kids, high school kids who are music people. Like so much of their lives, a lot of them, their lives revolve around music, and they can't come to these shows. So it creates like a really hard spot for the artist who know that they want to connect with these younger audiences, or bands who like don't have 21-year-old kids, or 21-year-old people, they're like younger kids. They like, where the fuck are they supposed to play?
I mean, for sure, I felt that. Like I said, I've been in bands since I was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. It is doable, and it is legal, as far as like trying to navigate all of those different barriers.
Right,
but for under 21s to be playing in bars, but it's hard to, your friend group and stuff is not going to be of that age. So it's.
Like, you might get the gig, but nobody, like your fans, your actual fans probably aren't coming because they're in high school or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I deal with that a lot, it's a situation I face a lot managing the strangers in town, because half of them aren't 21. So like, and they're like, locally the venues are pretty cool about it, but like if you go out of town, a lot of venues are like straight, you know, 21. No exceptions.
Yeah, it's crippling to a lot of like young people who have those desires to play out and understand what it is to be a working musician.
Yeah.
Because I had that unique opportunity of playing young, when I started bringing other people into my projects that they didn't grow up being in bands and playing out live and working.
Yeah.
They would also have unreasonable expectations.
Yeah.
Which is really, really hard to manage.
Mm-hmm. Like what comes to mind when you think about that? Like, did they expect certain gigs and stuff, or?
Oh yeah, I had
that there was big packed houses
Yeah, either just like audience attendance or like venue location of like where we'll be playing, and you do have to put in a lot of groundwork, and it's
take what you can get.
Not easy, but it's a lot easier to understand when you got to grow up with it and understand what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like too, if you know what that means, then you can also, and if you've been around it for a minute, you can reflect back to your bandmates like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Like, we're playing the long game. Every show, we're just getting better. It's just constantly building towards the next thing, and people are going to notice. And then all it takes is like somebody in your corner to recognize what you're up to, and then fight for you, So let's go to somebody who's in your corner, who I know, and he's a great guy, Steve Tyner.
Oh yeah.
So how did you get hooked up with Steve initially? Do you remember?
Yeah. So when I made Exposed Floors, it was kind of an album out of necessity, of having all of these songs that I knew I wanted to record, but I didn't have any money, and and I didn't have a band. So I made these tracks. Everything was, all the instrumentation was me.
Okay.
And then they sounded like dog shit because they weren't properly mixed or mastered.
Yeah.
So I had Steve's name recommended to me, and I told him what I was needing, and he was like, there is so much here. He was the person who was like, there's something here. It's raw and I can, fix it up. He's like, but Hannah, these are great.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he did them for me. Didn't even I don't think I even paid him, which of course now every single chance I get to be like, please, what's your rates? Like, I want to make sure that this is, as
totally
above board as possible, but I don't even think he made me pay him at the time. And
that's awesome.
He just made them sound as best as they could be for what they were.
Yeah, yeah.
And ever since then, every single thing that we've recorded has gone through him, because he knows how us as a band works. He understands the vision for the overall sound. Mm-hmm. And he's just a wonderful friend, even outside of anything musical we would ever do together. Steve and Andrea, his wife, are just beautiful people who are a pleasure to be around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think when I first got back into town, I I was gonna like start my company, like I was gonna start Wally Opus, and I remember calling like the small business bureau, I don't even know, development center, small business development center is what it is. And she's like, so I did like some research on other record labels in town and stuff. Some of them are studios and stuff. Some of them are defunct now, like they're not existent. There's one though, Black Cat Recording.
Yes.
And I'm like, what's that? So then I looked it up, and then I think I messaged him or something, and then he was like super nice. Come on over, see this. This is what he had, his old place.
Yeah.
Come see the like my little studio and hang out, and we just talked about the music, like local music scene. And he I think that day he was actually mixing a Sluice record.
Oh, yes.
And he's like, check this out. But then he sent me a few artists that he had worked with, and you were one of the, I guess it was Exposed Floors, probably at the time. But yeah, that was my first time listening to your music.
Well, I'm glad that I had such a positive introduction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it was great. And like, yeah, and Steve's always been somebody too, where like one time I was recording a band in a living room at a house, and we needed longer cables.
Oh,
and I
no.
was like, I don't have any money to go buy them. So I called Steve. I'm like, would you lend me like 5 cables? He's like, yeah, dude, come on over. What do you need? Like he was so nice. So
I think that's really indicative of how, like, I wouldn't say desperate, but like how like we're all so driven here locally to help each other, especially original acts. Every original band that I've gotten the pleasure of like working with and making just genuine friends with, we're all in each other's corner. Like I listen to Sluice's records, you know, I listen to A Modest Proposal, and I listen to like all of these wonderful local bands that are making incredible music.
Yeah.
And they listen to my stuff too. So it's a real beauty to see the like desire for community that we have here, especially because that has changed. That is not something that has always been the case here, of people being a little against each other. And
oh yeah, I've heard some stories about that shit.
Yeah, but nowadays it is totally a like tight-knit community of people who are welcoming and want to play shows together and want to try to create something really cool, because we know what we have. We know we have this like beautiful net of really talented and diverse musicians. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, and like somebody too that comes to mind that is a like a kind of like a glue of the community is Tommy Ellis, like with News for You.
Oh yeah.
Because he writes about, I send him shit, like I've been sending him shit all the time, and he's like, yeah, let me squeeze this in here. But like he writes about new bands, he writes about existing stuff.
Yeah.
He gets like really big interviews sometimes with like big bands that are coming through to the Ford Center and stuff. But then he like sits down with new acts, you know, like that are this is their first record. He's going to introduce them. But I feel that he is somebody, like when I read his stuff, I'm like, he takes this stuff so like I was reading his review of both of your last EPs, and it's just like so serious, and so like not serious boring, like serious, like he takes you serious.
Oh yeah, especially when you're talking about like local things being reviewed by local people, there is that kind of dismissive aspect of like, oh well, it's not that important.
Yes.
Or like, yeah, it's just whatever, it's some, you know, band that plays here all the time. No, he listens, he cares about this stuff. He has a really great diverse catalog of things that he references.
Yeah.
So when you say serious, I totally understand what you mean as far as actually like giving these bands the legitimacy they deserve.
Yes, agreed. And I think like him being part of that publication is so good for the local community, because like everybody gets a chance to get highlighted. If you're like, I don't know, I feel like if you're somebody who takes yourself serious, he's like, oh yeah, I recognize.
Yeah.
I'll share your stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just, sometimes I wonder what, like on my last podcast, I was talking to an old friend who I grew up with, and we grew up in Fort Branch down the road.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about how when we were in high school, like if you had a band, there is nowhere to play except at your house, except for we had like one small little venue that was, it was called Fifth Quarter, and it was supposed to be like a place for kids to go after the game on Friday.
Oh my gosh.
Where it was like no drinking. It was like a safe place to go.
I love
party.
this like sitcom level like image that I'm getting in my head.
Yeah, and like they would have, I mean, it was like theme nights, like they'd have like just dances and like other random shit. But they would sometimes let us have shows there. Yeah. So like I was DJing in high school, so I would DJ a show, and like maybe my friend who had a band would like play a set too. Yeah. But what we were talking about was like, thank God that existed, because if that didn't exist, we would have not done any, like there would be nothing to do with what we had going on. And so I think about the people who do stuff like that. It's like, it's such an important role in this small little area, like what Tommy does or like what Steve does. It's like a huge role of a small community, but without them, it wouldn't. They're like the linchpins that keep the thing together.
Absolutely. I was talking with my dad, who is a huge influence on my life and in my music, as far as being a great supporter, and who having a background in like running sounds he was on the Dixie Chicks first tour. Oh wow. Yeah. That's cool. To the point where he was there when they dropped Wide Open Spaces and watched them go from just like absolute stardom. He said that like his favorite moment was watching them get their first tour bus.
Oh my god!
Going from like a crappy RV to a legitimate like tour bus.
Yeah, that's badass.
So someone who has a background in supporting artists. Yeah. And he was in bands and these other things, but at the heart of it, we have the conversation of, the creatives have such an important role. They're the people out in front. Yeah. But without those people behind you, creating the structure and creating a platform where those artists actually have the room and the space to do what they do, it all falls apart. Mm-hmm. And as much as I feel like we idealize, the people, all of the artists and creatives doing those things at the very forefront. Yeah. Those other skills are just as important, and they should. It's also something that we have to think about when we're constructing a local scene. Is who is the underlying structure, because that's going to define how the rest of everything else grows. And how do we cultivate that? How do we bring more people into that structure and make it feel important and make it feel legitimate, Yeah.
And loving and caring and like...
and a warm glass of milk that your mom brings to you every night. Sorry.
Exactly. But,
you are totally right, though. Making it feel like a welcoming environment.
Yeah. Yes. And I was an artist when I was younger, so I know how it feels to not get paid for shit, or to like I was just talking to somebody about this recently, and I think this is, and I don't know really why some people do it. I mean, I think I know why, but I think it's greedy. But like the one thing, I remember getting an offer for a show one time when I lived in Miami, and they said, you have to sell like 50 or 60 tickets to come to the show. I'm like, I don't even know 60 people in Miami.
Exactly.
And it was like, if you don't sell this many tickets, you have to pay like $250 or like $300. I'm like,
my gosh,
what the fuck is this? Like, I have to pay you to play the show. I don't know. Like so it's just like not doing that type of stuff.
I feel like everybody like has that horror story, because I have the same exact story of like walking up to a band at the end of the night who were I guess they were from Chicago or something. I would name drop them if I even remembered their name, but I don't. And we were playing in Bloomington, and the same thing. I went up and I asked, I was like, hey, so, what's the money situation for tonight? Just want to make sure everything's clear and above board. And they were like, well, you didn't sell enough tickets, so like, you're not getting paid. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? Because the only people that were in that building were people that I had brought in. Yeah. But apparently it wasn't enough. And I was like, wow, you guys really took home all of this and didn't bring in a single person yourself, did you?
Yeah.
So never again.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like having people who go against that structure to begin with is really important.
But once you get fooled once or screwed over once, like it doesn't happen again. Like you can smell, or you can
mile away.
Yeah.
No, you can smell it, and it's stanky and it's gross, and it smells like executives in an office somewhere who decided this is how it should go. Yeah, it smells.
Well, and so like one time I remember playing a show in Fort Branch when I was like, I think I was I think I was like visiting home, and I played like around Christmas time or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like this older guy who I looked up to because he had his own songs and he was a singer-songwriter. He had done some stuff in Nashville, which when you don't know anything, you're like, oh God, dude, you went to Nashville. Yeah, which could have literally meant that he just went there. You know, like, doesn't mean that he did.
I bust on Broadway. I know more.
But after the show, it was a similar situation where like I invited all of my friends and family, and then after the show, I asked the bar people, like, are you guys paying us tonight? Because I knew that they charged at the door, and they're like, we already paid. I almost said his name, but I'm not going to, but we already paid him, and he gives you your cut, and he was gone. And I tried to get a hold of him, nothing. And then like last year, during the fall festival, sorry, that's the AC unit. We're trying to build a closet to like shut that thing up, but we're just not there yet. But I saw him at the fall festival last year, and I forgot. And I saw him, and I'm like, oh hey, like it was like he was right in front of me. I'm like, hey. He's like, oh hey, and I remembered as I was like,
no.
Hey.
And you guys just stared at each other for the next 20 minutes going, hey.
Hey. But it was like so awkward. It just I don't like how I felt that moment, so I don't want to put other people in that position. Because it's easy to do. Like if you're like a promoter type person, or if you're like hosting a show, it's like, well, you just play, right?
And that's a great moment of empathy that you have for people coming down the line. I totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I got this because I want to go back to something that I kind of skipped over. But talking, let's call it poetry early on in your life, but songwriting, maybe you still write poetry.
Oh, it's very bad. I shouldn't say it's very bad. I had a solo exhibition of artwork that was accompanied by a poem on each one. So I've grown a little bit more confident in my poetry / songwriting, lyric, writing.
Yeah, so I enjoy your lyric writing. Like,
thank you.
Like I saw the like the Instagram post where it was kind of like on a notepad or a piece of paper.
handwritten lyrics. Yeah.
Was that specific? Were those specific things like something you just did after the fact, or was that the actual songwriting?
No, I do not write songs that aesthetically pleasing. I wish I did.
Yeah.
No, it was more of an exercise of like writing these lyrics and trying to kind of show how they exist in my brain a little bit, and kind of the imagery that comes out for me.
Yeah.
But thank you. I definitely consider lyric writing probably the most important of my songwriting process. So I always really appreciate that when other creatives give that compliment,
Yeah. So what does your process look like in terms of, so for example, you've been working on a new record, or is it done yet?
It is in the process. We just finished recording old songs that were never done as a full band.
Okay.
So that we're now re-recording them as a full band.
Okay.
And then we're in the process of writing new music itself, which is about halfway done.
Okay. So what does writing new music look like for you and your band today?
So as far as the songs are about 75 to 80% done when I bring them to the band.
Okay.
I've figured out the structure, the chord progressions, things like that. And probably most of the lyrics. I'll sometimes rewrite some lyrics here and there, but the songs are mostly done before they make it to the band. Okay. And then the band usually, we sometimes will compose things a little bit different. We'll add some instrumental things here and there that I just don't think of or I don't hear with just me and a guitar. And yeah, the boys have such a different like musical background to me, so it's always a real joy to hear their insight and figure out what they're going to bring to the songs that I've, done by myself for this whole period of time, and then till it gets to them. Yeah.
So what does like conception look like for you for lyrics and songwriting? Like, is you like, okay, I'm gonna write I'm gonna make a record. You set out, you write songs, or is it like just you're always writing, or like?
Yeah, it's kind of a constant process for me. I have just an absolute obscene amount of notes in my phone as far as like little bits of lyrics here and there, or just words that I'm kind of fascinated by together.
Yeah.
I also, because I'm a visual artist, the like writing and musical process really go hand in hand a lot. I'll be thinking about visual things and how to describe them the way that I want them described, or I see something visual and I want to get the essence of that, of why it strikes me so deeply. So yeah, it's kind of inspiration from all forms, but it's a constant process for me.
So you think in like I just learned this recently, people think in images or words. You're an image.
Yeah, I think I'm both. I think that's people always would ask me, they're like, okay, but for real, if you could only pick art or music, which one would you pick? And I'd be like, no, they're the same
they're like
thing.
One and the same for you.
Yeah, they coexist for sure. I guess if I had to choose, it would be in images, but the words themselves are like
linked to
yeah, because communication is so important to me, and it was always emphasized from an early age of like saying exactly what you mean, mm-hmm. and describing things as, true to what you feel as possible.
Is that your parents telling you that, or is that like
a little
yourself telling you that, or
both? My parents definitely were a like emphasis on education, and my mom would read to us every single night until we were old enough to read books by ourselves, and then we would read by ourselves every single night. And I'm still like a fairly avid reader today, so trying to really appreciate how deeply we can connect with each other through words. I think it's always been an important thing in my life.
Do you think that reading? So people have told me, because we have a son, he's a year and a half old, and before we had him, people told us to read to him at night to develop his language quicker, and like, not only that, but it's a nice way to spend some time together before bed and to wind down and stuff. But do you feel like that really helped you?
Absolutely.
Understand language and words. And
yeah. I am not a parent, but I'm about to give you unsolicited parent advice. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead. I'll take whatever I can get.
Oh man, I have nothing but respect for parents. You guys are doing the hardest job of all time.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. It's also I think something that I'm recognizing with myself, with like parents our generation, a lot of them at least, because like the generation above us in their 40s and stuff, I feel like there's a lot of, not everybody obviously, there's but it's like, then I don't know, I want to say there's more coddling or something, or like not coddling, but almost like you have to do everything for the kid, whereas like I feel like me, like, and some of my friends who have kids, it's more like, no, that child is amazing, and like if you kind of just stay out of the way and keep it safe and like healthy,
they'll show you who they're going to be.
Yeah, it's going to blossom into this incredible being, versus like, can't do that. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but like, yeah. It's a hard job, but it's also not that difficult, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, I think well, of course I don't understand because I don't have any children.
Yeah.
But
you kind of get the
as
gist.
far as like being able to like from an early age try to facilitate creativity and individuality is something that's, you know, my parents gave both me and my sister the freedom to respect us and treat us like adults very quickly. Not and they put too much pressure on us, but treat us like we were human and we had our own thoughts and we had our own goals and expectations. And being able to honor that, I think really aided in a lot of like my creative thinking today.
Yeah.
Of not being too scared to shy away from what feels inherently like myself. Because I think sometimes we're like, we're a little scared to be seen with our pants down, honestly.
Yeah.
And music and art and creative endeavors are literally getting up in front of people, standing, reading your diary with your pants down. That is what it is. And
yes, metaphorically speaking, I totally understand.
You don't do that?
Well, I not always.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's vulnerable.
Yeah,
it's such a hard place to be.
It definitely is. But what's funny is I went on a retreat this past weekend and I wrote a letter to my son.
Oh,
and
what a lovely exercise.
Yeah, of course he can't read it and he doesn't get it, but one day hopefully he does. And what I wrote was like, I wrote everything that I want for him in his life.
Yeah.
Not like super specific, like I want you to be a good basketball player.
A doctor,
like,
lawyer, dentist?
Yeah, like I don't want you to be anything that whatever. But like at the end I wrote but like most importantly, whatever you do in your life, I just want you to do like what's inherently true to you. Like do your thing. Like that's it. Like go on your journey. Don't go on somebody else's journey. Don't go on my journey just because I was your dad, or like do what you did. Like yes, like follow in other people's footsteps, like model what other people did to learn from them, but like do your thing. And like I think that's what, you know, like what you're saying reminds me of that too. It's like encourage your kid to really be themselves and be authentic, like to who they are, and just carve their own path, you know.
Yeah.
Be brave, like do this thing, you know.
I think that's also something that we don't give enough leeway to adults to do either, especially in regards to trying new things. One of the beauties of being able to work at a guitar shop is seeing people at every single age and every single place in life
That's awesome.
pick up a guitar.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because you have no idea where it's going to take you. You're gonna suck. You're gonna sound awful, and you're not gonna be able to play any song at first. You know, like
your fingers are not gonna work.
Yeah, but like give people the freedom to be bad at something.
Yeah,
you do. I feel like we often have this pressure to, especially with hobbies in general, to commodify them, you know, make it into a like profitable hobby of some sort.
Yeah.
That's kind of just the state of like most people's checkbook nowadays. But like the ability to be bad at something and be okay with being bad at something, and also be okay that the fact that the only thing you get out of it is that you have fun and that you enjoy yourself. Right.
That is something that is like, it takes like humbleness to be like, okay,
oh my God,
I'm going to sit down and play the guitar really bad for the next 2 hours just because I want to like get a little bit better, and
just
hopefully,
because it's fun.
Yeah. And then at the end you like strum a chord, or you play like a small chord progression. You're like, ooh.
And the joy and that. Yes.
Yeah. But into, I feel like in like really deep down, most people, when you meet somebody who's like at 48 and they're like, I just bought a guitar and I'm going to learn how to play. It's like, if you're open to, unless you're like a judgmental asshole, then you're like, what the fuck are you playing? You know, but if you're open to it, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, what made you did you always want to play? You know, like if you're curious, it's like, oh, that's pretty freaking cool. Like,
I am so like, I strive to still like at every single age in life, be able to try new things and, you know, just be okay. Like I said, being bad at something. I think we had somebody who started their first guitar lesson at like 75 or something.
Oh my
it was their
gosh.
first ever guitar lesson, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm retired. I don't have anything else to do." I was like, "Okay, buddy."
Yeah,
Like,
that's badass.
yes.
That's awesome. I mean, I hope I have that level of like, just like curiosity and just interest to just try new things, not to be an old boring.
You will. You'll be so
person.
old and boring.
Yeah, I
And-
hope not. God. But so let's see. Let's go back to something. So I feel like in the articles I read about you, and then from my own interpretation of your music, or like taking in of your music, your voice is a standout aspect of your work.
Thank you.
That is a real. So how have you developed your voice? Or did you take lessons, or were you?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had a lot of more, not necessarily strict, but a little bit more guided kind of training as a young child in, like I said, church choirs. We were in the Evansville Children's Choir, which was, I think it's still around. But
I don't know.
It's I don't want to say prestigious, but you do have to like audition for it, which something when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever, is that's something that's a barrier.
Yes.
And me and my sister both did that as children. So we had, access to theory and, other types of vocal training that not everybody gets. I took private piano lessons as a kid, but I didn't want to take vocal lessons for some reason. I don't know why. And then later, I think I did do some vocal and piano lessons a little bit to my teacher that was right around the corner. She was a very nice lady who I think she was the music instructor at the Catholic school I went to.
Okay.
Which did not stay Catholic, but I at least kept all the training.
Yeah,
it's music
good training. Yeah, it's serious training in a lot of ways when you're a kid.
Yeah,
going through that.
It is, and I think I do take for granted sometimes because I do consider myself very self-taught in a lot of aspects. That I was exposed to that basic knowledge of theory and how to properly sing from a healthy part of your body.
Yeah.
There's a lot of singers who don't have that, and they end up wearing themselves out because they're just not singing in a way that is good for longevity. But as far as all of like my modern like rock singing, that was definitely trial and error.
Who would be some of your who? Let's see. How should I say this? Like, you were singing.
Mm-hmm.
There was you before, but then what pushed you into indie rock and taking on that persona, those vocals?
Yeah,
because there's a little bit of that in your first record already, like that. Yeah, and then it
for sure
really takes.
I mean, I think by the
sound fills out, I guess, by the EP.
Yes, probably by the time that I was 19, 20 years old, like I said, I had been in bands for a little bit. I had gotten to figure out what I was doing, but those early introductions were totally Hayley Williams from Paramore.
Yeah.
I mean,
fuck yeah.
What a fantastic like rock and honestly multi-genre vocalist to look up to as a kid. I'm so grateful. And to see like where her career has taken her, an absolute like wonderful inspiration to look up to as a kid.
Heck yeah. I seen them play one time. Bonnaroo. It went crazy. Yeah, they went crazy. Yeah.
I wanted to see her live quite a bit, especially she put out a lot of solo stuff recently that has just been like hit me at the right time in the right place, and really
that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, Hayley Williams from Paramore, it was like, and especially one of the few like female voices in rock that was younger, not looking at as much as I love Hart or Pat Benatar or like some of the more like classic voices that you associate with rock music. Having her was always a really great person to look up to.
Much more relatable sort of than like Joan Jett or something. It's like,
because to me, if I was 15, 16 years old, it's cool to look at the person who is, doing the thing, but somebody that's really not that far in age from me was really like special. But then again, I also my dad exposed me and my sister to a lot of stuff. So Sheryl Crow, Nancy Griffin.
I love Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, all of these fantastic like rock artists. Like, I mean, they're considered, that kind of like singer-songwriter, almost country at times. But like, if you listen to their vocals, they're pure. They're not like, they're altos. They're not sopranos. When a lot of pop music and a lot of rock music is dominated by soprano vocalists.
Yeah.
To be an alto vocal and hear those strong, deep voices at that time. So that is a great like place to look at.
So do these same figures influence your songwriting at all?
I think they have to. I mean,
like Sheryl Crow affects my own, or has affected my own writing.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, God damn it, she's fucking badass.
The ability to write like a killer hook, is something that I don't feel like I'm the greatest at, but I strive for, because that's the thing that, when everybody's, when a whole venue is able to like sing a chorus together and there's that sense of community and like nothing feels better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because like what makes me come to mind is like, I wonder how it was like the first time Sheryl Crow stepped up to a crowd after her song "If It Makes You Happy."
Oh my God!
And like that chorus.
Yeah.
If it makes you happy. Like when I remember listening.
We know it.
I listened to it over the summer at a Starbucks, and I don't even know why. I was just listening to it, and I just had this moment of like I think my hair kind of stood up in my arms. I'm like, holy shit! Like this is. Whew, I get kind of the chills thinking about it, but like, so when you're, well, what's funny is there was a quote from Tommy Ellis saying that one of your hooks, one of your choruses, he's like, it's a course that Taylor Swift would have killed to have, or like he said something.
I think he was talking about "Kind," if I remember right.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I think you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, and it's funny because like I mean, of course, like every teenage girl at the time, I owned a Taylor Swift record.
Yeah.
But she was never somebody that I like consistently looked to.
Yeah.
I think because I wanted to push away from the girl with the guitar, like kind of persona.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I always wanted to be in a band. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to be just like, the girl who has a hired gun band behind her.
Yeah.
And that's never been, the case. Like I said, even though this project that I'm in has my name on it, we are the band. Like the Hannah Evelyn Trio is a band and it's a unit and it doesn't change.
Yeah.
It's always what it is. So
you're the face of it and the name of it. But I can tell on social media even like all of your or most of your recent posts, I think the band is around in a lot of ways. What? Yeah. So I just thought of this too. The decision to go rent a cabin.
Yeah.
That is like I've talked to at least 3 bands about that in the past, about just the idea of doing that, because like, the Chili Peppers recorded their record. Where was it at? It was like in a house out in California.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all very busy people. So the only way we were going to be able to like get down to business in the way that we did when COVID, first happened and we wrote Cicada songs was to carve out a block of time.
Yeah.
Say fuck off to the world and dedicate, that time to each other and to the music. That was the way that we all knew that would be like the way that we would best collaborate.
And get it down the way with it. Yeah. Get it developed.
So we rented a cabin out in Red River Gorge, Kentucky, which is beautiful, by the way.
Where's that at? Look how fast the fucking hour goes.
Gosh.
I mean, literally, we just blew through an hour.
Yeah.
We'll keep going.
I can't quite remember where it's at, honestly, but a little bit down into Kentucky, not quite to Gatlinburg.
Okay.
Because I think it was only like a 2.5, 3 hour drive. It was not too long. But yeah, we brought all of our gear and enough gear to run through a mixer and record it for just, like rough demos. Yeah. Which was a goal that we also wanted to do, because we really haven't done much demoing. We've practiced and practiced and practiced enough to go record. And it's tight when we go and record, but we haven't had any reference tracks before then to know how it's really going to sound.
So do you think that, it's just interesting that you bring this up, because the last record I made with a local singer-songwriter named Swamp Eyes, he came in with full demos of every song, and gosh, that was the first time this has ever happened for me, where we always have, this consistently people have demos as reference, this is kind of what I'm going for, but his was like to the click and everything. And it was almost like we remade the tracks that he had and just filled them out. But was I loved having the demo, because we could go back if we were stuck. We would go back and be like, okay, I kind of actually let's stick with what the demo had. Did it change your process?
So we haven't gone in to record those songs yet, but it has changed my ability to kind of sit with them a little bit, as opposed to just kind of have them in my brain. But yeah, we went in and we demoed, and we wrote 6 songs in the time that we were there.
That's awesome.
Which is, I think usually when we sit down, a couple hours you get through one song or so.
Yeah.
But we wrote down and we wrote 6. So, and yeah, I think that process hopefully is something that we can continue to do in the future, because it was so productive. And I think, having those demo tracks now makes us stronger going into record. And it gets us excited about the stuff that we're making, because we can all go back and listen to it and kind of pick it apart a bit more.
Yeah, share on it.
Yeah.
So do you think that, for example, being on this retreat, there was this okay, yes, Friday night was good. Okay, by Saturday night, it's okay, we're all really in this. You're really focused. Did you feel that sort of thing at the cabin? Okay, we're by the second day or something, okay, we're really in this now.
We're all pretty serious people. As goofy and stupid as we are, we're all very much driven, very professional, very serious people when it comes to music. So we were just on. We were just ready from the get-go. And the only thing we did was stay in that cabin. We didn't go out on a hike. We didn't.
Really?
Yeah. I think we went to dinner the first night we were there at a Mexican restaurant. That was amazing.
Really?
Yeah, down in the middle of this holler, just a fantastic Mexican restaurant.
Just chilling there.
It was so good. But we just stayed in the cabin. That's all we did. We were focused and we were ready to go. Because that's the one thing about, I value my friendship with these guys so much, but we really value each other from a professional standpoint, as far as valuing each other's time and each other's talent. And,
that's nice. That that's really nice for a band.
You're
not assholes to each other and disrespectful.
We both I say we both, there's 3 of us. We all understand that as much as this is a creative endeavor and a unit of friendship, this is a business and it's a professional endeavor. And part of the reason we work so well together is because like I said, I have an art background, so I design all of our merch. Benji has photo and videography background, so he does a lot of our music video stuff, our photo promotional stuff. Jared has a background in web design and other kind of marketing aspects. So he's been really instrumental in doing some of our marketing, as well as designing our website. So we really value each other's professional talents, as well as we just really enjoy hanging out with each other.
That is the trifecta of the trio.
Yes, it is.
Having all those separate skill sets.
You have to.
You have to. When you're when you're like a grassroots
Yeah.
movement, you got to do it all.
Yeah. And that is one thing that, creatives don't always make the best promoters or advertisers or things like that. So we're all three very different types of creatives. And I think that allows us to think a little bit more outside the box and kind of fill in the gaps for each other. But it's a lot to ask of artists and bands nowadays to be everything all at once.
Yeah, you literally have to be like so I was just talking to somebody about this, about booking bigger shows. And she's like, well, I mean, if you don't have, like, it's just, I mean, some of the bigger festivals, like, if you don't have 100,000 plays minimum on your music on Spotify, like, they're not even gonna pay attention to
No,
you.
they don't care.
Yeah, which okay, I get now being on this side for a while. On the other side, it's like they have to sell a fuck ton of tickets.
It's a business.
And, like,
This is an entertainment industry.
Yeah, and they need numbers to back up what you got. I mean, it's like it sucks because that does mean that it's not solely based on the quality of the work or the musicians. It's like, well, this person has a fuck ton of views on, and 1 million Instagram followers. They're getting the slot. I mean, but they just have more value to the promoters and to the booking agents.
And I understand that. There's totally, like, the only thing that gets me with some of that is there's barriers that to get to those, 100,000 plays or whatever you're looking at, you have to get on these Spotify playlists that are curated, and whoever pays the most gets to be at the top of that curation list, whether they get picked or not. So there's still barriers that, even though they may seem democratic in some aspects, they totally are not.
It's not a coincidence that Taylor Swift's new album is on the top of every goddamn playlist across Spotify. I got on like New Music Friday or Top Hits or something when her album first came out. I was at a restaurant. I was at Full Moon with my wife and son.
Oh yeah.
I got viscerally heated. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like 5 of her songs are in the top 10. I'm like, Chloe, how is anybody supposed to compete with this shit, Wait, but it's like, I understand. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, to be fair, the biggest name in music, probably, you know?
Yes. And she releases her record.
Yes.
Everybody already knows about it. Like, it's good for Spotify.
Yes, it is.
Spotify's like, but everybody's listening to our playlist right now because she's in the top. It's like, okay, I get it. Everybody's winning out there.
The woes and complaints of the independent artists,
exactly.
Boo-hoo-hoo us.
I know. But it's like, okay, all right, whatever. But it is easier. I was just talking to somebody about this over the weekend. I'm like, it's easier to get started. The barrier to entry as a creative, you could literally, if you have GarageBand on your iPhone, you could literally make a multi-track song.
Yeah, you can make a record.
A full record on your iPhone, on your iPod, whatever iPhone. Put
iPod.
It out.
Hi, old.
They even make those damn things. But put it on YouTube or wherever. It's like you could do it all for free. Or the price of your phone. But then it's also really hard to poke through the noise.
It is.
And like sometimes you get lucky and stuff happens, but sometimes it's...
Well, and as much as we want to praise the all the wonderful independent artists that we know, there's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of shit out there that you have to weed through to get to the good stuff. And it's out there. The good stuff is totally out there, but I know a ton of people who make absolute like stinky ass garbage music. And the fact that, we're all on the same platform is just something that we have to accept.
Yes, exactly.
It's tough, but it's a pill you got to swallow.
It is. And like, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I don't know. I feel like I do this even though I don't really make that much money.
Yeah.
But it's like, what else am I going to do? This is what I want to do, And it's like, as a band, it's like this, everybody's in the same fucking boat unless you're in like the big boat.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But most of us aren't.
I'm in my little dinghy, you know?
Yeah, me too. I got a little canoe floating around, but it's like, I like it. I mean, I would love for all this shit to grow into, I'm working to get more successful, and I want to grow the bands I help, and I want to help anybody that I come across in the area. But like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like, I've gotten a lot of, not flack, but like not encouraging feedback for a reason, I think, that what I'm building isn't going to work if it stays in Evansville, because it's not been done before, really, where like someone builds something in Indiana that's this type of music,
I think,
and it goes somewhere, you know?
I mean, aren't we all out to see what the next Nashville or what the next Austin or what the next anything's going to be? You don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't. And I think Evansville has a lot of things going for it that could make it something to where we could be one of those like second, third tier kind of cities if we want to, and if we try to grow it.
Yeah.
It will take a lot of work, and it doesn't have the infrastructure to do it yet. I
Right.
will say, but I think the way you get to those hubs of creativity and artistry that seem to pop out, quote unquote, out of nowhere, is from a lot of people doing the groundwork to make that city a thriving place.
Over years.
Yeah, it isn't something that happens overnight, as much as we want to, whenever the biopic comes out of Wally Opus Records, you'll want to have a scene where it seems like everything happened overnight.
Right.
But that's not the way it is.
It's the quotes or the sayings like overnight success, 10 years in the making.
For real.
Yeah.
I recently found out that one of my favorite artists, Wolf Alice, they are a band that's super popular out of the UK, and they've been in the industry for I think decades now. But I only discovered them, I think 5 years ago. So for me, I was like, oh man, this band is amazing, and they came out of nowhere. No, they didn't. They've been making music for a really long time, and I was just oblivious to it because I wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep burping.
That's all right. I get it.
But yeah, I mean, I think kind of going back to the boat analogy, as cheesy as this sounds, when all of us are in our different boats and they're small and they got holes in them, at the end of the day, we really love to just be on the water. Yeah. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We just want to keep doing it regardless of the situation. So I think if Evansville or whatever small city it is the place where you find the most creative unity and artistic collaboration, then it's the place for it. That's the place that you should be developing and making what you need to make. I talk about this all the time of when I'm chatting with my parents, of course, of what's the next move and what's the, because of course, I'm in my 20s and I want to, make sure I'm doing everything to get 30, flirty, and thriving, or whatever the fuck you got to do by 30, or else you die, or something. Because of course that's what happens is you turn 30 and you keel over.
Yep. That's right.
But when I'm having these conversations, I talk a lot about how much I value the band and how value of an asset Jared and Benji are to me and to the unit that we create together.
Yeah. And
that's not something I want to lose. So I think, it's any city, you can make it work. You really can. If the people who are creating and, making this net and this structure underneath are willing to do it.
Yeah.
And there's that desire. That desire is out there. You see this push lately, and you see these great bands who are willing to do it with each other, not just single solo acts who are willing to do it with whoever behind them.
Yeah.
It's very much, the bands I know are very tight-knit units around here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think the whole Evansville isn't the place to do it is just something by somebody who you ask them their next piece of advice and it's to move to New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, I mean, what's funny is the next person who I was talking to's piece of advice was to move to Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, of course, but that's the thing. I didn't go to Nashville in the first place because everybody's in Nashville.
Well, and we reflect the art and experiences of our location and where we grew up. And, the art that we make here, it connects to people who are from this region and who understand when you reference these cultural things that might not be referenced elsewhere. Of course, anybody can listen to your music and connect with it. That's not what I'm saying. But, I think there is something of value for respecting the people who are around you to say, I am making this for you and to connect with you because you're the people I interact with every single day. I think we need to have a respect for the people who we are around all the time and want to have conversations with, even if they're hard conversations, even if it's political or whatever of your disagreement, whatever it may be, respect your neighbors enough to want to talk to them and try to figure things out and make art to develop your area.
Yeah, like that's something I was talking with a friend. He is a high level painter. Yeah. And he lives in Evansville, but like he's like I can't. But he works with people outside of the country now. But like he was saying, I've tried. He's been in Evansville for 3 years. He's like, I've tried to reach out. I've tried to get involved with like people, but like it's just like I just don't know if it's like for me like the community. And I was like, and I told him, and we talked about this a couple times, but I'm like, I think it's just. Like when you're here, people don't recognize. It's just like you're like what you're from here. Like I'm from here, so that doesn't make you special, or like it doesn't like why should we take you serious or something like that. But I just think it takes a couple people to help build up some sort of community of like of what we're talking about, of what's already sort of. I feel like it is happening at some level. Like there's people. It like takes that diverse, like, okay, there's people on like the business side of things who are like willing to put up money to rent venues and do stuff and put promotion behind it. But then there's the artists who are like going to take it really serious and try to promote it themselves. And then like it's just like this community of people that begin forming. And I mean, like I fucking like Evansville a lot. Like I love living here. It's great. I mean, my mom's in Poseyville, so she's not that far. Chloe's family's all over the west side. So like, and it's not that expensive. You kind of know people here. I like living here. We just got to pull it all together.
Yeah. Well, and I just because you want to stay in a certain area doesn't mean you can't branch out. Doesn't mean you can't go play shows in other cities, etc. But there's nothing wrong with having a home base that isn't a gigantic hub. That is still a nurturing and welcoming environment. That is totally something. Those things are not mutually exclusive. You don't have to choose. Yeah,
I think so too. I mean, especially today, we have the internet, and that was like a huge reason I felt like I could come home and still do this. Was like, we have the internet. Like, I don't know what else, I mean, now it does help. Like I'm going to Nashville tomorrow. So it does help to live close to Nashville or like these other cities to like access the resources. But I like for a while I was thinking I need to move to Nashville, and I still don't know if I don't know what's going to go down in the next couple of years, but I keep having this small voice in the back of my mind that's like, maybe you don't need to go to Nashville. Maybe you can like stay and keep building it here. And like, cause you just don't know. I just, like you said, you have no idea what's happening next. And Nashville's saturated as fuck. Everybody, every third person you meet does something in the music. Maybe even every other,
Yeah. The person who makes your coffee in the morning is a wicked, like, chicken picking player and can absolutely play circles around you. Yeah. And you tipped him $1.
Yes.
Like that's
that is the level down. Which is also it's like, okay, but then there's that level, there's something to be said about that level of skill and I guess competition to a degree where like, okay, then that means you have to be pretty damn good to hang out around here, to be around here. So the level of work goes up, I guess. But I don't know.
I think it also snuffs out a lot of people kind of early in their journey, which is,
Yeah, like for better or for worse. It's like...
Yeah, sometimes it is... Sometimes you do have to be pushed to a different path. And I understand that as far as this being your job,
Yeah.
You can always have music in your life and it not be your job.
Yes.
But there are also some people that they just need the right resources, and it would be the thing that like the nation needs, whatever that there. I feel like there are people who get the shit into the stick sometimes way too early in their start to things.
Yeah, I know, and like that's what something I've thought about recently too is like when I was like 19 or 20, I thought that, okay, I'm gonna do this music thing and I have to like make it by next year or the year after, or else like I gotta get like a real job. Like I gotta figure something out. But then you get down the line and it's like, no, I think I'm gonna keep going on the whole music thing, and I'll just get like a day job, and then sometimes you don't have to have a day job and you get to make music, but then you gotta go back. But it's like, what? This is the journey, man. Like,
I think you also, you realize at some point in time that there is a place where you can find success and it be a stable, like, if your only concern is like monetary stability, yes, there is a place where you can quote unquote make it.
Yeah.
But really, there is never a point. If you are a true curious and like you want to investigate everything kind of creative person, there is no make it. There is no end goal. There are wonderful points of success along the way that you get to celebrate and honor, but there is never a point where, like, I hope there's never a point where I'm just completely satisfied.
Yeah.
I hope I am like absolutely hungry for information for the rest of my life. That's all I want.
That's awesome. That curiosity, that like need to keep going, but I feel like that's a lot of times what happens to somebody who then success, whatever that might look like for them, comes at some point, like they cross paths of this person who just keeps on the path, and then something else happens and boop, you're ready to rock.
I would always rather be, hungry and more like, the biggest fear in my life is that I get bored. Yeah. Because I am someone who is like never bored. I'm always, maybe this is a little too much information, I'm always talking to myself, of having conversations with myself.
I do too.
Yeah. The last thing I want to do is run out of things to say.
Yeah. That is so true. Like when the ideas stop coming, or like that will be I hope it doesn't ever happen to you or to me, like, because for example, sometimes I wake up and I got nothing going on in my head. It's just like nothing's going on. It's just not even static. It's just like a blank picture. And then like something happens in the morning, or like I'll go, like I've been going to yoga at Yoga 101. Mm-hmm. I'll get out of yoga and I'll sit in my car and it's just like flooded with ideas. And I'm like, get my, like I use notes too and voice memos, and it's like just like I don't ever want that to end. If it became down between that and being I want to say not successful, but if it became between that and like I had to give that up to gain something else that I think I want, I would stick with the ideas. Like I never want that to go away. If it was that, or you get to be the biggest producer out, I don't know, but it's like you keep that as long, if I
you can't though.
Ideas.
That's the trick though. Is like I at least I hope that like the biggest producers and the people out there who are most successful, like I hope that they're curious, and I hope that they
I think they are.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think they are. Okay, let's jump to I have one segment in the show.
Okay.
It's called Don't Think, Just Act.
I will try.
Okay, so I'm going to say a name, a term, an idea, question. Say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay, I will try my best.
Okay, first up, Cameron Nosco.
Oh, friend. Friend.
I forget how I brought your name up to Cam one time. She's like, she's my best friend.
Yes.
That's what she said.
I'm surprised she didn't say, that's my mom. Because she is me and my partner's child. Okay. Even though I think she's older than me. But she's awesome. My child. She's my friend.
Cam's great.
I love her so deeply.
She's a light in the world's darkness. Even when it's not dark, she's a light of...
Another absolutely beautiful and amazing creative that we have here in the area that I have been blessed to meet. So
It's awesome. Okay, next one. As a more guitar member,
Yes.
what is your guitar brand of choice / model of choice, if you got specific? What
Fender
do you gravitate-
Telecaster.
Fender Telecaster. Is that what you play?
No.
But it's what you like.
Well, on stage, I have a Reverend Club King 290, which is my perfect guitar, and I do love Reverend, but Fender's my brand forever. I always have a Tele in my collection at all points in time. One of my first guitars, and I will own a Tele till the day I die.
I love it. Do you have a lot of guitars?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of assumed you were going to...
Too many.
Okay, most memorable moment performing live?
Parksfest solo, which I know I said I hate playing solo.
I saw that photo on your Instagram back in the couple years ago.
But to have a lawn full of people listening to you intently to what you have to say, what a beautiful moment. And to be involved in such a great organization as Parksfest, wonderful. It's great awesome. all around.
It's awesome. Love it. Favorite album favorite album all time?
Oh my God.
If you had one.
Oh, that's hard.
Or artist.
Wolf Alice, Visions of a Life.
I need to listen to that.
You should.
Here, we'll text about it later.
Yeah.
Okay, a song you recently fell in love with.
Rilo Kiley's The Good That Won't Come Out.
Ooh, I like the title. Send me that one too.
Yeah. I'm just going to make you do your homework.
Yeah, good. Dream gig. What's your dream gig?
Oh, God.
Let's call it performing live.
Opening up for Hayley Williams on her solo tour that's never going to happen because it was supposed to happen over COVID, and then all of the shows got canceled. Opening up for her at Headliners in Louisville.
Oh, really?
Because I love that place.
I'm going there on, let's see, not this Saturday, whatever's after Thanksgiving. We're going to go to a little show there. I've never been there.
Oh, it's lovely. It's such
excited.
A great place to see a show. It's
awesome.
Maybe not my I don't know. It's just my favorite, so it feels like it would just feel like home.
I love it. Do you think if she went on tour, she would play there?
I don't know. It's a semi-large venue.
Okay.
I saw Group Love there, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet. Okay, I like that answer. Opening up for Hayley Williams solo tour. Current, well, we kind of already talked about this, but what is one word that comes to mind? Current state of the Evansville music scene.
Seedling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Okay. Someone in music that you look up to.
Hannah from Group Love. She is a prolific and very talented artist who also happens to be in probably one of the biggest indie rock bands of all time. Currently still making music.
I want to say I maybe saw Group Love one time. You know, when you go to a festival, sometimes you stumble across a big band, but you're like, I don't even know. I can't remember if that was them or not. But
yeah.
I want to say maybe. But that's cool. What's her name again?
Her first name is Hannah. I forget her last name, but to look up to somebody who has such a wonderful balance of both art and music and family and, community, creativity. She just seems like of course she probably has her own problems, but she seems like she has it all together in a really wonderful work-life balance.
Love it. Hannah Evelyn Trio, 5 years from now, what's it look like?
My answer was about to be so cringy. I was about to go, Mr. Worldwide. No. Still together, still the same unit. Hopefully Jared still has a mullet. But still close friends who love each other and love working with each other. That's all I want for us.
Awesome. So you don't care what happens as long as that is at the center.
Yeah, those are my family. Those are my brothers that I never asked for.
Love it. You didn't ask for them, but you got them.
Unfortunately.
Okay, you get the chance to hang out for one evening doing whatever you like to do with one person, dead or alive. Who would it be?
My partner, Justine. I love her so much. I would spend every night with her.
Awesome.
Doing whatever.
Love it. See, the next part was why, but I think I understand.
Yeah, love.
It's love. All right. So I want to say, from not personally knowing you, but knowing of you for several years and seeing you around, I feel like you're truly a staple of the Evansville music scene. I think you have a very important role. I was thinking about this earlier, that I haven't worked with very many female artists in Evansville.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us.
Yeah, there's not.
We're
so I
there,
feel like,
but
yeah, a couple have come across my radar. We just haven't done anything yet in the studio, but I feel like you hold an important role and you do it very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to commend you on that. And then where do people, if people want to follow you, what's the best? Instagram or? Yeah,
Instagram's great, Facebook's great. And we're on Spotify, iTunes, all the places, but I think all of our social medias are Hannah Evelyn Music.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Hannah Evelyn Music. And do you have anything coming up that people need to look out for? The record or shows or anything? What's happening?
We play a show at Your Brother's Bookstore in December.
Okay.
I can actually find the exact date.
Yeah. Who's that show with?
Corduroy Orbison.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we love the Corda Boys.
Yep, Zach and the boys.
Yes. We're December 11th at Your Brother's Bookstore.
Okay, like a month from now.
Yeah, it's like a month from now. It's on a Sunday, so it's supposed to be kind of a, again, looking at non-traditional environments and venues.
Yeah, they've been having a lot of shows there.
Yeah,
I've never even been there.
If you've always wanted to step into a Tiny Desk show, then go out and support some local artists.
Oh,
yeah, it'll be that vibe.
That sounds cool. Okay, thank you, Hannah, for doing the show. Any closing remarks for anybody listening?
Thank you for having me, and support local.
Love it. All right, thank you guys for listening. This has been Mining in the Foothills, and we'll see you next week.
Boom, 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 boom.